All right. It's indeed a very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of The Tackle. It is the 5th of September 2022. Tarehe ni 5 mwezi wa 9 mwaka 2022. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have you woken up well and you ready to tackle your day? It's a new week, it's a new day. And this is the first ever Monday that has ever been waited for. Mondays always depend. Most people don't never wait for Mondays. But this is the most interesting Monday as people wait to have a conversation and get to understand the ruling that's coming up on the Supreme Court this morning. There's been a conversation around the ruling that's coming up. Watu wengi wanasema, wengine wanasema tafuteni ndoo ya machozi, wengine wanasema tafuteni mali ya sherehe. So it depends on how it's going to go. But it could go either way. And as I keep telling you that whichever way it goes, we are all Kenyans and we still have a country. We have one president. This country has never had two presidents. We have one president. And will be president for all Kenyans. So as the Supreme Court ways to make its ruling and to encourage you as a Kenyan to continue preaching peace and ensuring that you can live well among yourselves. So it's another morning. It's the State of the Nation edition of the Monday of 5th September 2022. Tafadhali ukifika like as usual. And you're like, we get to know that you're watching us. And that like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is the tackle and it begins right now. Kama kawaida. Lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe alafu kirudi basi tunakuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this conversation, even as we have it made edify the fabric of this country. And every tackler that joins us this morning, you meet them at their point of individual needs. For you pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Aya. Tuko na wageni leo, tuko na Mheshimiwa His Excellency Martin Moshisho. His Excellency Martin Moshisho. Na pia tuko na His Excellency Martin Moshisho na pia tuko na ARNOLD MALIBA. Kama kawaida tuko na ARNOLD MALIBA joining us as well this morning as a resident analyst, and also he'll be more of a co-host this morning. He's also asking questions. I know he has been asked questions many times, so this morning he'll also be asking questions pertaining the running of the country and what we need to know about what we are expecting as well from the Supreme Court. So join us this morning kuna Mheshimiwa Moshisho Martin. Jina ngumu kidogo kusema Moshisho. Good morning to you, Excellency.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Martin Moshisho, Deputy Governor KAJIADO County. And I'm glad to be in Takwa this morning. And I want to really thank you for this invitation and to join Kenyans. First of all, say this is a good day that every Kenyan is waiting for. But I would like to mention that as a country, we need to be very calm. Either way the decision will go, we will have Kenya. We will have our brotherhood. We will have our neighbors as usual. So we should maintain peace. We should maintain peace. This country is bigger than any individual. It is bigger than Honorable Ruto. It's bigger than Honorable Raila. It's bigger than any political party. And we should maintain calm. Yes.
Okay. All right. It's a pleasure to have you this morning as well.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for making time to join us this morning. We hope you'll be able to have more conversation with you as we move forward. All right. Okay. Tuko pia na ARNOLD MALIBA. Good morning to you, Mheshimiwa ARNOLD MALIBA.
Good morning, how are you?
Najua tangu ujaribu kuwa mheshimiwa unakuwa tu mheshimiwa. That's the best thing about Kenya. Once you try being a mheshimiwa.
And you know that's where the problem is. Because there is a way, of course, when you become a honorable, there is a way how you become, of course, getting that honorific mheshimiwa. But sisi unajua tunaita kila mtu, hata ule mwenye amesoma kura anaitwa mheshimiwa. I know the precedents, the bill on precedents didn't go through in 2013, 2014. But of course, there was, and there is still existing a law on how you actually take on the honorific honorable or mheshimiwa. So it's not for everybody else. My name is ARNOLD MALIBA. If you can call me any other thing, public policy analyst. I do write, I do commentate, I do technical stuff and everything else. But everything except mheshimiwa, because until that particular day when somebody actually, people decide, kura zangu zinatosha, I think I should, if it's a title I'm actually looking forward to, then I should actually be in a position to wait until it's actually real. Otherwise, kuita mtu yote mheshimiwa mwenye hajachaguliwa ama it's not a former member of parliament is not true. hoping that at some point we will actually have this fixed. That bill has been lying around Parliament for a very long time. Even MCAs are not waheshimiwas.
CS.
MCAs. People who should be mheshimiwa should be judges, members of Parliament. Those are the original owners of the term. So judges, members of Parliament. Of course, the President and the Deputy are His Excellency. We hadn't fixed these zingine zote. We did a bill, but that bill never went through because there was a lot of push and pull and people didn't think it was important. But in every orderly society, you must have how people are addressed appropriately. So we will fix that eventually. So mimi ni Arnold Maliba. Okay, when everybody else calls me Maliba, it's the easiest name everybody remembers. Otherwise, ukisema Arnold wanakuuliza mgani? And if you say Maliba, guys are like, okay.
As about, we know that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, where we sit as citizens of this country, we know that once you try to be a mheshimiwa, even if you don't get there, you're still a mheshimiwa. And we are still entitled to something from you. So this morning we're entitled also to something from you coming in. The pleasure to have you again, Arnold. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm seeing you have a lot of citizens who are happy already. Felix asema leo malala sana. Najua sasa tuko na ngoja His Excellency. Hatuwezi anza bila His Excellency. So kama kuna mtu anafaa apigwe fine ni His Excellency.
I'm sorry.
Martin Moshisho. We are innocent. We are innocent. But at least he's finally here. Johnson Sama. Good morning to you, Johnson. Collins Kimtai, good morning, team. Eldoret Falling at Santa Sana. Mongarito continue all the way from the United Kingdom. Good to see you, my brother, this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have you. Saying Kiproli Joshua Sema here. Mitch. Good morning, Peter. Good morning to your Queen Asmaina this Monday. Kama Christmas. Asante Sana. Collins Kimtai, good morning. Good to see you guys. Our great one, Asante Abraham Ongoti. Good morning, team. Tackled together at the end from Bronco University. Good to see you. Jefferson, good morning. Good morning to you, Perpetual Ngangu. Good morning to you, sir. Denson Moses Benjamin. Good morning, General. Happy to be here. Trust you are doing well. Pia salimia Mr. Maliba na unisaidia. I lost my job and I know you can help. Haya, hey, things of earth. Okay. Henry Kirwa Evans, the verdict. Yes, it's a verdict this morning. All eyes on the Supreme Court to see what's going to happen right there. Ask Chepto, good morning. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Also, keep watching from Nairobi, Kino. William Van, I love your show. Bito, keep it up from Kisumu. Asante Sana. There's a team tackle, the biggest thing in town. Happy to be part of this family. Asante Sana. Meto, Cadet Nick, how are you, boss? Tuko ndani kabisa. Asante Kirwa Kiliki. Arnold Maliba, very brilliant man. Charles Jeffs Moiben locked acha na Mungu aitwa Mungu. Asante Jango.
This is weird.
Weird.
Alisema very weird man.
No, I said a very brilliant man. Are you
mwambie nitatuma chai.
Unajishuku? Are you suspecting when weird? All right. Jango, good things are coming. Hiya, listen, Bodo, good morning, Gerald. Glad to be here at the tackle. It makes my morning. Asante Sana. Kipto Kemboy, good morning. I always follow your show. Follow me kochini kidogo. Tutongeza. Let us keep good morning, GB, watching live from diaspora. Peace to all Kenyans on Goal of Africa. I'm logged in. Asante Sana. Biko Arab Chebor Achamge. Asante Ronald Matt, following from Kitale. I love the show. Thank you. Undara Mokwa on Esbona. Hey, the tackle from Kiambu to Kondani. Asante Sana. Kipkoech Evans, good work, bro. Good work. Asante Sana. Kipkoech Evans. Unajua Kenya. Kila mtu anasemanga to you too. Mtu aliambiwa happy birthday. Anasema to you too. Well, I'm saying good work to you too. Thank you so much. Eddie Yugi, Niko Ngangari from Islia, Santa Saremon Kesa. Good morning. Good morning. Bitokan crew. Dewele siku ambia wa Kenya there'll be only one president. The verdict will be final. Asante. Kimtai Rwatunu from Kitale Trans Nzoia. Tuko locked. I love the tackle show. Asante. Watu wa Kitale nilikuja. One thing about Kitale town is it never expands, never shrinks. From the time I saw Kitale from what it was, haijai ongezeka, haijai pungua. Kitale ni ile street ya kuingia ni moja, miti ambayo ilikuwa ni ile, the towns are still, the buildings are still the same. Lakini watu wa Kitale bado tunawapenda. I still do. Mbaya Lavona, good show, keep it up. Waiting for the judgment. Asante sana Chiruai, keep it up. Gerald Bitoka, asante sana. Oleliba mwenye matane. Karibu Deputy Governor Kajiado County, kazi safi. Gerald Bitoka, can allow people from Kajiado to engage our leader. Tuko tayari. It's an open forum for Kajiado people to engage their leader. Especially given that they are going in for a second term. We want to know what is the other plan that they have for the second term. You guys have been there for the first 5 years. We want to know. Ni hesabu gani mmepiga? Karata gani mmepiga leo? Muliama chama. Anyway, Zarudi hapo. Kathleen Kate, good morning. All watching from the Tacoma in USA. Thank you so much, Kathleen Kate, for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure. Kathleen Kate has been here for 2 years. Thank you so much, Kathleen Kate, all the way from United States of America. Kadavi Isifale, say hi to Maliba. Amesalimika. But then I need to start judging you for greetings that you get here. Maliba.
Hizo salamu mimi upata hapa, by the way. One of those things I want to do is to start charging you. Kwa sababu ya kutotuma hizo salamu kwangu.
Basi nimepeana sahi direct. Kwani
haufikishagi zote, unatuma salamu zangu nusu. So you need to remind when they comment there, they need to actually tag me because wewe ufikishagi zote.
Haya. Watu wa Arsenal. Wewe ni Arsenal ama Man U? Waheshimiwa.
Naam.
Arsenal ama Manchester?
Mimi Arsenal.
Arsenal. Habari ya kunyoroshwa?
Tumekubali. Kuna mtu nilibet na yeye jana.
Pesa ngapi?
Pesa tu kidogo. Lakini wakati tu tulikongwa ya 3, hata siku ngoja game ishe, nikatuma bet.
Ukaenda send money.
Nika concede mapema.
Lakini nikuuliza mheshimiwa, unajua football ni kama pia, it's like football is like, I mean, politics like football. It's a competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that you find so easy to concede on football times? Ukilima unakubali unasema yenyewe tumelimwa. Sijasikia Supreme Court ya football. Sijasikia sana ndio mbele Supreme Court. Ama Man U.
Ni kweli hata hii ulingo wa siasa aswa mambo ya kwa mashindano ya kura ni kama tu mpira. Na ndio wanasema asiyekubali kushindwa si mshindani. Wakati wowote unaingia katika uwanja wa siasa na kutafuta kura na ufike debeni, jua kwamba choices ni mbili, is either upite ama ukose. Na ukipata ushangilie, ukikosa kubali. Hivyo ndivyo ilivyo. Naam.
So lakini inakuwaje ngumu basi kwa wakati wa siasa inakuwa vigumu kuconcede?
Wengine wanafanya pia kama siesi sema kwa ngazi ya rais, lakini huko viti vingine kuna mwingine ambaye anasumbua pengine kujaribu kuona kama kutakuwa na maongezi, makubaliano hapo. Wengine wanafanya, unajua saa zingine unaweza enda koti alafu unaambiwa yule ambaye umeshindana na yeye akulipe kitu kidogo. Kuna wengine ambao wako na biashara hapo ndani. Lakini niseme ni chungu kulose ama kule kushindwa, ni chungu kabisa. Ukikumbuka ule muda ambao umetumia, ukikumbuka ile resources ambazo umetumia, ukikumbuka watu ambao wako nyuma yako ambao wanakushabikia, wanakuambia unaweza, ni lazima ufanye juu chini kuhakikisha kwamba ni kushindwa ya ukweli na sio kushindwa ambayo kumeingia ukora ndani. Kwa hivyo unaposikia haswa mambo ya rais kila wakati wanaenda Supreme Court, ni ili kujaribu kuhakikisha kwamba hiyo kukosa wamekosa kwa haki. Wamekosa kwa haki. Kwa hivyo ni kitu ambayo inakubalika. And we want to thank our country that we have all avenues that you can exhaust.
Yes.
Njia zote ya kuona kwamba umeshindwa kwa njia ya halali. Tushukuru kwamba tuko na nchi ambayo iko na katiba nzuri ambayo imetoa maelekezo na namna ambayo tutaweka akilio yetu mbele na itatuliwe kwa njia mwafaka. Naam.
All right. Okay, and I think for me I encourage those cases because I think it keeps, and there is a conversation we'll be having every day, that the court process actually, it helps to stretch the constitution to its end.
Yes.
Now, because this constitution is new, someone needs to pull it to its maximum end. Ivutwe kabisa kama mpaka usikie ile mwisho yake. So I think I appreciate the fact that we keep continuing to try and test the constitution against all the scenarios that we have. But I think also there's some level of political mischief in taking advantage of these avenues as well. that ends up stalling. Right now, as we speak, we have not yet gazetted the swearing in of the National Assembly and also Senate members who have been elected. What do you make of that? Are we staring at a constitutional crisis?
I don't think. We have been having elections. We have been having appeals being made. And the better part is that we have deadlines. So we waiting to see how things will go. But I think as how the constitution have been framed, I think there is no cause of alarm in my own view.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no cause for alarm in your own view. All right, so the deadline is Thursday for the gazettement of the elected leaders in the National Assembly and the Senate as well. So we're heading to see what move the president will be able to make within these few days, within the 3 days. But even before we move again to Arnold to get a perspective of the way the nation is, what is the state of the nation as it is right now, Meshemio?
The state of the nation is that while we thank God that almost all the positions that were delayed are now done. We have done elections. And we only remain with the president's case that will be decided today, and we will know the fate. If the court validates the election of the president-elect, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, we will proceed to the swearing in on the 10th. If not, we will go back to campaigns for the next 60 days. We will going to have another election, re-election. But honestly, let me appreciate Kenyans. After the elections and after the president-elect was declared, the people of Kenya maintain calm. We have tranquility, we have peace in our country. This is something that we cannot take for granted. But as leaders and as a country, we want to really applaud the actions of our citizens.
Okay.
I think that has really helped to stabilize the country, because any time we have chaos, it destabilizes the economy. It threatens even the international community from coming to our country, investments. But this time round, we have calm in the country, and that is a great advantage in our country. This shows the level of maturity, political maturity that our country is gaining day by day.
Okay.
And I think the 2007-2008 experience has really made our country and made all of us to learn from our mistakes.
Okay.
And I think Kenya is not ready to go back to the 2007-2008 case. And that's why we see a lot of maturity in our politics and in the way we conduct ourselves.
Okay.
During and after elections, and something that we really appreciate. We also know that all this is happening after the global pandemic, COVID-19.
COVID-19, yes.
Yeah, the country is trying to recover from the scars of COVID-19, and I think we cannot afford to mess with our country further than what these calamities cost and this pandemic cost. It really affected our economy. It affected jobs. A lot of people lost jobs.
Yeah.
And I think we couldn't afford to mess around with our country and our lives too.
Sure.
So we also have a very, very, very severe drought at the moment. Many parts of our country, we have lives of people, almost losing lives in various parts of our country. Animals are dying, because of starvation, lack of feeds, and also lack of water. So I think that again puts us in a very, very, very unstable position as a country. And the sooner we settle all these, presidential squabbles, the better for our country, because the president, the governors, and all elected leaders, and even the other stakeholders have got a very huge responsibility to make sure that they save the lives of people and animals at this point. So that is my take, but we thank God for the peace.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Arnold, what is the state of the nation as I speak? Hali ya nchi iko vipi? Kikaa hivyo nasikia hali ya anga ya nchi iko namna gani?
I think the country is okay. A little bit of apprehension here and there, of course, for purposes of we've been waiting. Mondays are not very good days. That's why we talk about Monday blues.
But this is the first Monday that's been waited for.
Ordinarily, even in school, we didn't always look forward to Monday. All of us used to look forward to a Friday, Thursday. Things will look easy. Even in high school, I don't think Monday did have very good food. You'd look forward to a Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, and even a Saturday.
Friday is siku ya nyama.
Sisi, we had nyama, I think, on Saturday, or Thursday, something like that.
Sisi tulikuwa na nyama Friday.
Yeah, so Mondays have never been very good, at least for those of us who grew up this side of Sahara. But for the first time, of course, so many of us are looking forward to Monday, not just because there's anything good we are looking forward to, but I know a number of us have got a pegging on this particular day to see how the future of the nation actually pans out. A number of us also wish that we can actually get over elections, and today is that particular day where then we can proceed with our work as usual, to move on, to get over it, to get going, because elections have really gripped the country for the longest time. And remember that we are just emerging from a pandemic that is really not over. It's still really wreaking havoc. It's only that we've learned to live with it and even ignore it, but it's still around. So for many people, especially the people in business, they want to get on because we've really been on a plateau. People want to see if they can then scale up business and go up. Others want to see if government is the biggest business person. The business of government is still closed up. And if we do not have a parliament, for example, to initiate appropriation laws to ensure that then money can flow, county governments are stuck. We do not have county assemblies in place. That means that appropriation cannot even begin in earnest. So everything by and large is still stuck. We need to get over this. And this is the biggest hurdle that was remaining, the presidential election determination. So if we have got some 30 days for a runoff or some 60 days for a fresh election, it all depends on what the justices decide this day. So we hope and pray that we will not extend. I know Muhesh has spoken about the importance, and even you, Bitok, have spoken about the import of actually people going to the Supreme Court. But it's important to remind people out there that the Supreme Court is not part and parcel of the election. Politicians have marketed the Supreme Court as part and parcel of the elections. It is not. Elections end at the polling station, at the ballot. Any other thing is outside of that particular purview. It could affect, but the Supreme Court is not part and parcel of the elections. We really need to have that at the back of our mind, because somehow we've actually then we are taking on this habit that elections lazima tutaenda Supreme Court. So when you plan and even thinking, we are now marketing the Supreme Court as part and parcel of the electoral process. It is not. It's not part and parcel of elections. Elections inaishia pale penye inaingilia form 34A. Any other thing, whether you guys are the governor, you had form for 34, 37? No, it should be 37, I think. Yeah, so anyway. So the Supreme Court is not part and parcel of elections. Tulimaliza elections, kitambo. What is now left is actually to see for us, actually, this is a dispute resolution mechanism. It can only take us back to an election or actually say that we finished elections. That is where we are. So it's a day everybody is waiting for. There is a lot of apprehension. There have been, of course, attempts by a few other people who are worried for one reason or the other to try and spy emotions. But like Mahesh alisema hapa hivi, Kenyans have really come of age. And sometimes I say this, that we are where we are as a country because of the individual efforts and resolution and the resolute determination of individuals as a people. We wake up every morning and decide that we will go to our farms. We wake up every morning and decide that we will work. Kenya is where it is much more from people's own efforts, more than what governments have done. Not any particular deliberate policy from any government of any particular regime, but because we as a people have actually decided that we actually want to be where we are. Because as a nation, by the way, it's important to remind ourselves this morning that only 16% of our land is arable, not the best of lands, by the way. You wouldn't compare that with our neighbors, especially in the south and in the west. Huko kwingine baadaye unaenda unafieka, unachoma na unapanda na mahindi inatoka tu poa. But you try that even in Kitale and you will not even get anything good. So we don't have the best of land. We don't have minerals. What we have in this particular country is the human resources. It is you and I. It is the people out there. That is the best resource that we have as a nation. Ile kitu ya kujisifia. Hata wanyama wetu wamepungua. As in, we don't have so much outside of ourselves as the resource that the country has. That is the best we have. We don't have oil. What is in Turkana ni kidogo sana. We've not even realized so much out of it. So it is sisi kujituma. And that is why when we've got processes that hold us back like where we are today, it holds our economy back. You look elsewhere and you realize, go to Tanzania and see how their land produces so well, especially on the other side of Kilimanjaro, all the way to Iringa. It does proper production. In Uganda, the land is very fertile. Hapa kwetu ni kidogo to purchase some parts in central and the bigger part of it being Rift Valley. Na hata hiyo Rift Valley ni kapatch tu kadogo tu hapo Kitale Uasin Gishu hivyo, and that's where it stops. We don't have largely a proper comparatively rain-fed proper arable land. So it's us as a people who've made this country come this far. Why have I taken that long? It's just to remind people that whether Kenya moves forward or not is actually dependent on us as a people and not a few politicians and not a few processes here. Everything in this country, including laws, they are made for us. We are not made for them. So our lives cannot therefore then stop because some process, some laws, some exercise is going on elsewhere. So we need to actually be happy that we brought our country this far. People have not gone to the streets. People really expected that there will be so much. I think we've come of age and our democracy is really working. One of those successes of this constitution, this particular year and how we react, is actually a success of this constitution. You actually need to look at it and say that it's a product of this election actually having, of this particular constitution having come this far. That if you go to the court and you feel you don't like it, you move on to the next level where you go to court. And we pray that everybody will abide and submit themselves to the outcome of the court. Because we do not want to have a court that makes decisions and people do not respect that. That is the road to anarchy. Laws must mean something. Court decisions must mean something. And like I said last year, that not last year, in the last show I was here, that the buffer between us and anarchy is the Supreme Court. If then we do not respect what comes out of the Supreme Court, then what is the import of the rule of law? It will only, unless that rule of law is really not something that we want to make use of. So all of us, and I know citizens have no problems abiding by the rules of the Supreme Court. Every citizen out there, even if you're called by the police officers, Kuja police station, I can tell you 99% of Kenyans will go. Hata ukiitwa na chief. We have never had a problem as a people abiding by the rule of law. What has been the problem is that there is the 1%ers, a few guys who actually feel they're above the law. They can ignore court orders, they can break laws with abandon, and so much. So, but then we as a people are okay. But then even if you did away with those other people, we will still have a country that is running. So I think the state of the nation is quite stable. Children have gone to school and no one out there should actually make parents start running around looking for ways of getting their children out of school. Our children are in school. The economy, the cogs of the economy are turning quite well. So we are okay. What we are waiting for is whatever comes out of court. And we will move on. There was a declaration at Bomas, and nothing much happened. I think that was the biggest thing. So I doubt that what then comes out of court, unless it fundamentally changes what was announced at Bomas, there is no reason to worry. And even if what comes out of Bomas takes us back to the ballot, you Kenyans will still do and should be encouraged to do what they did. Go, cast your vote, go back home and do your business.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something, the cartoon I saw yesterday by the Daily Nation, and it was saying it was Kenyatta, Daniel Moi, Mwai Kibaki, the 4 gentlemen. Okay. And they were saying these days they vote and then 7 people decide who won. Naambiana huko mbinguni na siku hizi hawa ngwana huko Kenya
but that's not true. That's not entirely true. And that is why I insist that politicians should stop marketing the Supreme Court as part and parcel of the elections. That is not true. The sovereignty of the vote it should actually be something that we actually have to market out there. That over and above, no one, whether it is a commissioner, whether it is a judge, should then determine whether your vote counts or not. Your vote should count by the virtue that you've actually cast it. And the majority will have their way, as the minority have their say. It's very, very important. So these ideas of trying to introduce electoral colleges where a few people can actually then decide on our votes should actually be discouraged. Because, why I say that is that now we are the next frontier that gets into leadership. Every millennial out there should know that now they are no longer the young people of this country, but the people of this country, because they are the people running the economy. They are the people on whose cogs the commerce of this country actually counts. So we cannot come and re-engineer our elections where we introduce and sneak in an electoral college through courts and through some administrative processes, like we're allowing IEBC commissioners, for example, to vote on a process, or giving the court so much power. The crafters of the Constitution were very wise. They decided that the Supreme Court, once it comes to the leadership, the ultimate leadership of this country, Article 140 only limits the court to 2 options. Uphold or nullify. And when they nullify, they send you back to the ballot, which means that there is no alternative to the ballot. And that's why I still insist that the Supreme Court is not part and parcel of our elections. And politicians should not market the Supreme Court as part and parcel of the elections. Because even the Supreme Court is totally uninvited to that particular process. What they only decide is 2 things. Number 1, either you guys did it right or you guys did it wrong. Go back and fix it. There are not 2 ways. That's what Article 140 of the Constitution actually gives us. Even the court. You did it well, thumbs up, proceed. Or you did not do it right, go back and do it properly. Yeah.
Okay. What do you make of that? So that's the trend, right? And I was saying, the Supreme Court is not part and parcel of the election process. And it looks like we've continued to drag it into that. And someone was telling me, before the elections, we used to have this conversation of, after elections, tutaongea. Mambo akasema hapana, you say after petitions.
My take is we have one of the best country and one of the best country guided by laws. Let's appreciate that the provision by our constitution to allow appeals to happen in the Supreme Court is good for our country. There are some countries, even in our East African community, that once someone is declared by the body that is conducting elections, that is final. Whether you won fairly or unfairly, there is no appeal.
There's no recourse.
And that is also not good for a country. But the space we have in Kenya shows that our democracy is in a higher level. When the elections were nullified sometimes back in Kenya. I think that was 2017. You know, a lot of African countries applauded, you know, the audacity and the courage of our courts to nullify a presidential election. And we went back and we have a country. So me, I really appreciate. It's a democratic space. And especially if we utilize it without fights, without wars, we really support it.
So you're in for it.
I'm in for it. I love it. But as he says, you know, the role of the Supreme Court is just to really ascertain whether it was a legal win. I mean, it was a fair, or if there are malpractices that of a higher magnitude, then directs the country to go back to election. So, as he says, Brother Arnold, it's about the ballot. It's about the ballot. And I have seen a lot of improvement in IEBC, especially at a county level. I see a lot of responsibility by every IEBC officer. And I'm made to understand that there was a ruling that was made some times back that any time there is an appeal, it is never about the entire IEBC. It is about the officer who was handling a particular responsibility. I think that brings an element of accountability to every officer. So if you mess up a process at your level, you will be liable for it. As time goes by, our processes are improving day by day. So let me not comment about what is about the presidential tally because of the rulings that will be happening today, but we will talk about it after this. Because if what we have seen at the county level is going to be replicated in the national, especially on the presidential vote, then we are improving day by day. Yep.
All right. This is a question for you, Mheshimiwa, and I also co-share. I co-share in this question because I've experienced it. There's this road. Last time I was around there, how many months ago? Around, when was this? 4 months ago. I used this road between Masai Lodge stage and Masai Lodge, the restaurant. It's chaotic.
I know.
And yet I see, it's not even, you don't even call those things potholes. Those are craters. Those are craters. What's happening between the road between Masai Lodge stage and I think it goes all the way to Rimpa? Between that route all the way to Masai Lodge stage. And I mean, when is the last time you used that road?
No, I've used recently.
When?
I think 3 months ago when we had debates in Nasarene University. I passed and I used that road. And I know
how did it feel?
The case of that road. That road...
In fact, your county owes me one shock. I lost one shock on that road while going to Masai Lodge. So the county owes me one shock.
Sorry, Paul. There is a road that should, the same road should connect to Kitengela. And that is not a county road. That is a national government road. And according to the national government plan, that road was to be tarmacked and tarmacked all the way to Kitengela. I think it went to a level of almost a tender being issued. But at some point, especially after Corona broke in the country, priorities changed. Priorities changed, and that was where the problem came. But recently we talked with those in the national government, and the CEO of Kera, promised us that upon the availability of funds, that road will be tarmacked. So I request our citizens, our people, to be patient. We are working on that road in conjunction with the national government. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Before I swing into Arnold, there's also a question here from Ololeila Menya Matan. And someone thanks Martin Moshisho, Kajiado Deputy Governor, for mentioning the issue of drought in this forum. Ask him about the 500 million emergency kitty in his office before he asks well wishers to chip in.
Yeah, we have that allocation of 130 million. We have also engaged stakeholders to come and partner with the county government to help us solve the situation. And from Thursday, we are expecting to be disbursing a few items to the community. So I request them to be calm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wangoje. Haya, Arnold. Anzi kwako.
Well, I literally would really love to know how, Kajiado is the other Nairobi that we've not looked at. Because the Nairobi Metropolitan Plan that we had was to ensure that Nairobi becomes much easier. You know that counties, like countries, there is interdependence. So here is Kajiado, actually the best option for Nairobi expansion. Because Kiambu ile upande ingine, kidogo kuko concentration iko juu. So when we were working on the Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan in 2016, 2017, all the way, I was lucky to actually be part and parcel of the team that worked on the Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan. We were trying to lift part and parcel of what was in the Metropolitan Plan and everything else. It's become so difficult for counties to partner and ensure that these things work. I just wanted to know from you, I don't know whether the Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan, because the planners of Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan ensured that they try to bring in all stakeholders in Nairobi, that is Kajiado, Machakos, Kiambu, all the way to Nyandarua, because our food in Nairobi comes from Nyandarua, our water comes from Murang'a. So we try to bring together so many of these counties. But the participation was so low. There was not so much, mbona hizi counties zingine azionagi ziko part and parcel in Nairobi? I would really love to know and probably hear from you what you think would be the best way to approach this. Because Nairobi has got 3.5 million people who sleep here. But during the day, we have 4.5. About 1 million people show up from Kiambu, a number of them from Kajiado, Machakos, and come back to Nairobi. Yes. The infrastructure is all... what he just didn't say when he says, like, say that he co-shares in that question. He probably ulala wapi Kajiado.
Nilala huko. Kwa sababu nilipata shock. Niliongeza siku mbili.
Huwa nalala huko anakuja kutafuta unga Nairobi. How possible is it for us, for example, to come up with something like, probably think about you guys coming up with a metropolitan partnership. I know there are blocks. There are these regional blocks. Have you guys thought about probably coming up with a metropolitan block where you guys come together? Because there's too much interdependence.
Yes.
But when it comes, I speak that because from a policy practitioner's perspective, I know how difficult it has been to try have all these counties think, plan together on some aspects, and actually realize that as much as we are trying to dance our own song, this is what I think about this particular region, the metropolitan region, that kila msee ako busy anaimba wimbo yake, lakini hii competition ya choir. Why can't we form a choir so that then there is symphony, there is harmony, and then we sing and sing? Because Nairobi feeds into Kajiado, it feeds into... Hapo tu ni penye shida iko. Unaona kidogo tu hapa. I don't know how you guys are thinking. Lakini because you are here, and the hope of Nairobi growing is so much going southwards. You talk about Kajiado. Machakos hiyo side ingine si tushajaza Syokimau na hiyo place ingine huwezi enda Kenya unless it becomes one
unless you actually go into Machakos itself.
Unless you're going to Machakos itself and swallowing it up. We're going on to this other side. I don't know if you guys think this is an important approach even as we move forward.
Yeah. So thank you very much. It is very true that Kajiado is among counties that are in the metropole. Counties of Nairobi, Kajiado, Kiambu, Machakos. I think at some point Murang'a. Yes, are part of the Nairobi metropole. And you have, yes, Kajiado, they call Kajiado the bedroom of Nairobi. The reason as to why they say that is because a lot of people are residing in Kajiado, and they work in Nairobi, go back to Kajiado. And again, it puts a lot of pressure to Kajiado because where people are so many, there is a demand of services. That is, road network, water, healthcare, and many other things. And right now, because of this proximity to Nairobi, the population of Kajiado is growing every day. We are at 1.2 million people at the moment. And there is a projection of that population going up rapidly and so high, because of the proximity to Nairobi. You have asked about whether there is, a framework and a body to bring these services coordinated. There is one attempt, I don't know how far it has gone, under the Ministry of Transport, led by CS Macharia. There is this program, I think it's called Namata.
Yes.
Namata.
Yeah.
Under Namata, it was bringing these metropolitan counties together. It coordinates certain activities, especially on infrastructure, like road network. There was a plan to have things like metros, these trains around the metropole. And that was something that was being worked under Namata to involve the metropolitan counties. So I think there is a framework. Something has taken off. There are a number of things that
during this transition period, wherever the transition is taking place, be it at the presidential level, at the gubernatorial level, at the woman representative level, at the senatorial level, all the way down to the MCA level. It is my prayer that during this transition period, wherever the transition is taking place, be it at the presidential level, at the gubernatorial level, at the woman representative level, at the senatorial level,
to bring these huge buses and the metros, like what happens in Europe and around other countries. And this is working around Namata. So I think there is a framework. It is just to scale it up and be able to do more under that framework. Yes.
Mheshimiwa, I'm still, thanks so much. At least Namata is an effort by the national government.
Yes,
of course,
yes,
though
yes.
it's very much focused on the transport sector. I would actually invite you to thinking and actually seeing if this is an idea that you guys can actually take up. There is need for a Nairobi Metropolitan Counties Union away from transport alone, so that there is joint planning from county assemblies, all the way to...
And I think we missed a point somewhere, because we now have these economic blocks. Yes. I think economic blocks, we should have thought
of a metropolitan economic
block.
Yes.
So what other counties did, they went to, the counties that speaks the same dialect, counties that comes from the same region. But I think as metropolitan counties, we should have come together and formed an economic block under, because we share a lot of things in common. We share a lot of things in common. When Kajiado is affected by the issue of water, Nairobi is affected, Murang'a is affected, road networks, same case. So even the matatu industry really affects us a big deal. So If nothing is going to be appealed on terms of economic blocks, then I think we need to scale up the issue of another block that will bring us together to be able to, solve and work on common issues that we undergoing as the metropolitan counties.
Yeah, because the reason why I actually brought that up, I think, when you talk about economic blocks, I don't know what economic, or rather the word economic mean, seeing too much that our economy is interdependent, it's interconnected for the counties that are around the Nairobi metropolis area. And I think it's an easy thing for you. Pick up a call, a phone, throw it to Sakaja. I think I can also interest him in that, so that then the Nairobi metropolitan county, or rather the areas, counties in there, can actually come up with an economic block that speaks to their interests. Because honestly, there's nothing more economic than what links Nairobi to Kajiado. True. There's nothing different. So if Kajiado belongs to any other economic block other than having one with Nairobi, then I want to question the wisdom that informs the use of the word economy in that particular way of joining somebody else other than us coming together, because there's so much that we share.
I totally agree.
There's need for the county assemblies in this particular region to work together. Machakos, Kajiado, Kiambu, Muranga. And by the way, when we worked on the new plan for Nairobi, we went as far as trying to invite guys from Nyandarua, because we know food comes from that end. Correct. That comes to the city. Correct. So even as we plan, a lot of these problems will actually be taken care of. I'll give you an example in Machakos. There's this road at the border of Nairobi and Machakos, a small road. We call it the Syokimau Airport Road, from Gateway Mall all the way going into Katani or the other way.
Yeah, I know
that road is quite an important feeder road, not just into Syokimau, but then going all the way to Mudhuani to the other side. But somehow that road has not really found favor, because everybody says, the guys in Nairobi say, but see, Machakos say, the so the guys in Machakos can actually lobby, even have Katani Road fixed. But then Syokimau Airport Road, which is quite an important artery, even if you had an issue in the airport, that road, if it's fixed, will really take care of a lot of those issues. But somehow there's always been that ping-pong. So I hope that when we start working together and then targeting our resources together as a regional block, there is actually, but this one we have no choice. We work together. I know there is also the fear of having what we call the urban sprawl. We need to stop the urban sprawl, because you don't know when the city stops. Now there is no boundary between Nairobi and Machakos. In so many areas now, there's no boundary between Nairobi and Kajiado. So the urban sprawl, where the city just keeps on going and going and going. How do we stop that? Because it's taking away important land. If we don't work and plan together, we are going to have a lot of what we call urban sprawl, where a town just keeps on growing. By extension, inaenda tu. But I come from a place called Mumias. Sometimes when the sugar company was working very well, there used to be a town called Shibale. That Shibale grew up and fixed up with Mayoni. Mayoni grew up and fixed up with Matungu on the western side. On the eastern side, you leave Shibale, you go to a place called Angola, you go to... As in towns now, there is no difference until mtu wa matatu akwambie hapa ni town fulani.
That's very true.
So we need
what
to work
is
on
happening
that.
Right now in Kajiado, towns like Kitengela just brought up. They came up without plan. Yes. And right now when you go to Kitengela, Kitengela is extending all the way to Isinya. Yeah. So every day you find things coming up in Kajiado along the road. And I think the issue of planning as county governments, we have a lot of work to ensure that we have proper plannings in these towns. Otherwise, we will have a lot of towns just coming up haphazardly without plan. And that will be very, very dangerous for the country. Okay. Yeah. So I totally agree.
All right. Yeah. Okay, before you come back to Kajiado, I'm seeing the number of questions on Kajiado as well. I think it looks like Kajiado people have been waiting for a forum to ask questions and speak to its leadership. Before we get back to that, I'd like to get back to the Supreme Court again, because I think that's a big conversation this morning. And Arnold, I'd like you to help us shape this perspective, this conversation, in the sense that What exactly are we expecting? What are the issues that are on the table today at the Supreme Court? What are the issues on their menu? Because I think they struck off a number of things from their menu. They're like, this one, sisi atukulange mboga hii, tukulange managu, wanasema tukulange kuku. And also before that, I want to remind you that if you can see this broadcast, if you can see this, that it means that your next client can also see it. So you can advertise with us. You have a number on the screen. There's an ad overlay that's running on your screen. You can call us or WhatsApp us, and you can be able to ensure that you can put your brand before your client. If you can see this, then clearly your next client too can. Then angalia YouTube kidogo. To our YouTube amamka mapema now from all the way from the United Kingdom. Good morning, Gerald. Regardless of the Supreme Court outcome, the Kenyan Constitution is there as our shield against the follies of government. Arnold, I hope you are well. Karayu, good morning, Gerald, watching live from Moyale. Asante. Articles as well said, Mr. Moshisho, Kenya will keep going. Sir LK, good morning. Shadrach Kavoy, fix Arnold microphone. His voice is too loud. I think we fixed that already. I think that should be up. Well, Articles now, Arnold's mic volume is a bit low. Tayari, ilikuwa imegeuzwa kidogo, lakini sasa mambo iko sawa. Netro teacher Monday is here watching from Dallas, Texas. Thank you so much, diasporans. All walks of life tune into the tackle. Very impressive. Mainstream idanganye ati tumegawanyika kama raia. We are okay. Politics is politics. For Eldoret, we really need sidewalks and adequate water drainage underneath them. Streetlights have been greatly improved, but the roads have to be decongested of traffic. Princess, good morning, team. To tackle, I hope all of millions Kenyans are peaceful as we wait today's ruling. Let's maintain peace, love, and unity. Good morning, Honorable Togas and the entire tackle family. I think now so far I'm impressed with Mr. Moshisho's thoughts. Asante Cleveland Otieno mjamboni viongozi. Salama sana Cleveland, good to see you this morning. Articles from United Kingdom, productive citizens are the ones who drive an economy, never the government. According to research readily available on the web, Kenya needs phosphorus and agricultural lime as the main fertilizer inputs, then nitrogen. Kenya is potassium rich, so that one is fine. Ben Kipchumba, Dr. Mushendo Lienda. But I'm just yupo anakuja. TJ Mariagi live, proud of my deputy governor, Martin Moshisho. Mike Njata, morning. What plans for Old Namanga Road and Kitengela traffic? Okay, we'll get back to that. But before that, let's get back to the Supreme Court a little bit. We'll try and shape the issues that are available on the table. We had the questions that were raised by the judges again last week. We also had the recounting and scrutiny of the ballot boxes. There was a report that came there out. A lot of Kenyans have not taken time to actually go through the report and pick out to separate the chaff from the wheat. Maybe Arnold can also help us on that. So the big question is, what is on the menu for the 7 judges at the Supreme Court, the 7 bench judges at the Supreme Court? And how likely as a conversation, because you can always tell from the arguments by lawyers from both ends, you can almost tell what is it that is cooking. And I think also the Supreme Court, they have done us an injustice. For me, I think this thing should have continued at least for another 3 or 4 days. We are getting entertainment from it. It was very dramatic. We learned about Piggy Ponky. We heard about the plumbers and the bathroom. It has been an interesting week. So maybe wangetuongeza siku kidogo entertainment ya mawakili and senior counsels. Anyway, since we're already here, Arnold, what's on the menu?
I think all of us were actually following up on these issues. But generally, what are we looking at? Number one, I think they were looking at the technology. If the technology deployed by IBC, of course, met the standards that were actually out there, the transparency, the security, to guarantee accurate and verifiable elections. 2, whether there was interference with the uploading of the transmission of forms, whether there was a difference between Form 34A uploaded on the public portal and the Form 34As that were physically delivered to bombers, and whether the postponement of the gubernatorial elections in Kakamega and Mombasa would have actually affected or rather served into voter suppression, and whether there was explainable discrepancies between the votes cast for the presidential candidates and other elective positions, and whether the IBC carried out the verification, tallying, and declaration of results in accordance with Article 138, C and 10, and number 7, whether the declared presidential, the declared president attained 50% plus 1, and whether there was irregularities and the illegalities of such magnitude as to affect the final result of the president. And what reliefs and orders can the court grant? So are you willing for us to go bit by bit so that I think it's important. I give you my feeling?
Yes.
So on the first issue, Whether the technology deployed by IEBC for the conduct of the 2022 general elections met the standards of integrity, verifiability, security, transparency, and rather to guarantee accurate and verifiable results. So what technology are we talking about here? We are talking about the KIMS kit, and then of course the voter transmission bit of it.
The servers na portal.
For me, by and large, the KIMS kit worked very well because I think only about 200,000 people voted via, if my memory serves me right, in the regions of 200 people, 200,000 people voted via
the manual register.
The manual register. So I think out of the circa 14 million people who came out to vote, 200,000 is not a threshold, in my opinion. It's not sufficient threshold upon which you can actually then say that system did not work. Were there discrepancies in the transmission, for example, where the Form 34As on the portal and the physical ones were at variance? I don't think we have got even closer to 10. I'm looking at the 41 polling stations that the sampling was done. I think there was none that was actually at variance. What other technology was there that was deployed apart from identification, voter identification, the KIMS kit, and transmission? So on the first question, I do not think from where I sit, there could be deeper. Normally, because we're going to, there is no need of preempting anything when we have a ruling coming in a couple of hours. Yes. But from where I sit as an individual, I don't think the technology this time was so bad as to warrant to say that it really affected the verifiability of this particular election. Because even in the sampling of the 41 polling stations that were chosen by the petitioner himself, there wasn't so much at variance. There was, at least quantitatively, there was no problem. Whether the interference of uploading, we spoke about the uploading of transmission forms, because the reason why we have got the digital arm forms is that in the days of old, we used to have cases where I am the returning officer, I get lost with the forms, and therefore there is no way of telling what happens. So we came up with a redundancy measure where there is a form that goes inakutangulia. So hata ukipotea bado tuko na results.
Ndio zile masiku ya gari ilianguka,
sijui watu walipotea. So and that is done at the polling center. Haujatoka nje. At the polling center, mkishapiga kura, mkishamaliza, mna fill form 34A, mna scan hapo, kila mtu anapiga picha. Wewe unatuma yako ikienda Bomas digitally, alafu utakuja ufuatishe nini na barabara. So I saw the questions. At least, of course, for an operation of that magnitude, there will always be issues. Yes. But wholesome, from where I see it, again, the threshold upon which this can actually say that there was interference with uploading, the petitioners and the people who made allegations, for me, did not present a convincing case that will actually say that, okay, forms, there were problems with how the forms were uploaded, and there were challenges. Because the good thing is that, again, even at the uploading level, there were redundancy measures where, number one, if the KIMS kit has got a problem, we as agents in that particular polling stations have taken the photos of that thing. We've sent it to our own tallying centers or our own people to actually work out. So what does it mean? It means that even if there is a case, for example, of failure in uploading of forms, there is no way somebody is going to change that. Of course, there were claims that there was this guy called Jose Carmago. He was intercepting them, and of course that was actually proved to be an overlay of one form that had actually gotten people very happy out there. I want to move on very fast. Then, whether there was a difference between Form 34A uploaded on the IBC portal and, again, I don't think there were more than 10 forms to that effect. Largely, everything else was actually very representative. Whether the postponement of the gubernatorial elections in Kakamega and Bungoma and others contributed to the voter suppression, the voter turnout in Kakamega was even worse. And Mombasa. So that case cannot be proven, likely by looking at what happened in Kakamega and Mombasa. during the election that followed, it really did not help the case. Number 5, whether there was unexplained discrepancies between the cast votes, the presidential votes, and the elective positions. This time, I think we had about 23,000 votes. Is it 33,000 votes cast for the president more than other seats? And you know how that can actually be explained? Very easily, because of what we call stray votes. Because when you talk about rejected votes, it has got 2 categories of rejected votes. Number 1, the spoiled votes, where either you marked outside the demarcated area or you marked more than one place. There's a way you can spoil a vote. And then there is what we call stray ballots. Stray ballots is that you probably were supposed to vote for the member of parliament, which is the green ballot paper. Then you put it in the pink ballot box, which is meant for the women rep or the member of county assembly. No, the member of the National Assembly, the county member of the National Assembly. So we will not count that vote because it is a vote in the wrong box. So that is called like a stray ballot. So that both the spoiled and the stray ballots can actually explain the variance of about 33,000. Again, 33,000 ballot papers out of 14 million plus ballots that have been cast. That's a very small percentage. Let's move on fast. Again, that is not for me a threshold upon which you can actually then say this was too much. Then whether IBC carried out the verification, tallying, and declaration of results in accordance with Article 38. Of course, that is that has actually preoccupied the biggest position of our conversations online. And people were talking about the 27 constituencies that were not read out publicly. Yes. They were verified. They went through the whole process. What was only left was to announce publicly. And in IBC's defense, of course, they say Commissioner Gulia was supposed to read that out before the chairman read out the results. And we've seen that normally happens as we come to the tail end. But then there's these people saying that violence did not stop. That violence stopped the declaration of the 27. Are the results of the 27 fundamentally different? The ones from 34C, are they fundamentally different with what is in the portal and what is the physical copies? Definitely there has not been proof that by not announcing, something newer came in. So I think that that for me is what Professor Lumumba would say, of small things, the law knows no cure. That for me is actually the verbal declaration. I know it is important and lawyers will go out and argue and say, okay, there's a reason why we put out that particular process and everything else. But the law does not work in a vacuum of circumstances that were prevailing. We saw how Gulie Molu, the chairman, were mishandled at the tallying center, at the National Tallying Center. So if anything, will you as a chairman buy time? After kuchapwa hivyo vile alikuwa amechapwa hapo kwingine. People really, the other day Malala had actually going to be arrested in Kakamega because of what the police said, participation in violent acts during the elections. But the violence at Bomas was captured on camera. Until now, it's still under investigation. But Malala's case, immediately the following day, the police, over 50 police officers had besieged him at home. But this was captured on camera. No one has been arrested. Ledama has not been asked a question. Kanchori has not been spoken to. Even just to be invited, come and tell us your side of the story. Nothing. The commissioners went to the police. They recorded their statement. Nothing. So, does it speak to what you think will be something out of a worry? Yes. So, I'm looking at a place where if I were Chebukati, will I wait for an extra day to declare? He is one man who says that the National Security Advisory Council or Committee had actually visited him. He is one man who saw violence. Sisi wengine tuliona kwa TV, yeye alijionea kwa mwili. My people in Western will call yeye alijionea kwa mwili. He felt it, yes. Felt it closer to him, right? So what had happened with that kind of tension, and the nation was actually very apprehensive. Would he have waited until the following day before that was done? the decision was made backroom that with the way things look like, and at that particular time, there was already the OPEC 4 at Serena. And I want to actually ask the Serena management to today close the facility. We don't want to have...
You don't have judges.
We don't want to have some section of judges showing up at Serena and looking somber like what we saw there that particular day. Tafadhali, watu wa Serena mfungi hoteli. Leo hatutaki shida. Yeah, so... again, for me, I feel that there was not demonstrable threshold that IBC did not comply to 138C, 138.3C, and 138.10. I still don't believe that was actually breached significantly as to alter and impeach Form 34A. For me, since in the Maina Kiai case, the ruling is so simple that the results as declared at the polling station are final. In the presidential election, therefore, if something does not impeach, if an allegation, if a situation does not impeach Form 34A, then what is weightier? That above all else, Form 34A reigns supreme. So do I think that what happened at Bomas, for example, impeached or desecrated what I want to call the dignity of the Form 34A? No, I don't think so. Moving very fast, whether the declared president-elect attained 50% plus one of the votes cast in accordance with Article 138.4, again, all the votes that are in dispute, we're talking about 66,000 votes. About 66,000 votes that then makes 50% plus one possible. Of course, the difference between William Ruto and Raila Odinga is 246,000 votes. But then the votes, the core votes that then give in 50% plus one is just 66,000 votes. Of all the votes that have been in dispute, nothing, totally nothing, goes beyond 20,000 votes. So the 20,000 votes in between there does not then again impeach the 66,000 votes at the core of this particular discussion. So again, it could be slim, but the margin of 50% plus one for all the votes that has been there. Of course, there was the Mtata's case and attempt at redefining rejected votes, talking about 140,000 votes. But then from what we've seen in court, what would be in dispute cannot go beyond 20,000 votes. Again, not impeaching that particular threshold. Number 8, whether there were irregularities and illegalities of such magnitude as to affect the final result of the presidential election. What we've seen is, in my language, Majitu stories. A lot of Majitu stories here and there. We saw Jose Carmago. We were told about people intercepting the Form 34As. We were told about people infiltrating the system. But in my opinion, that was not actually proven. The judges might actually have had the opportunity to look at that. We saw, again, a track of evidence, a truckload of evidence being brought to court. But did you see that evidence in court? You didn't see a truckload of evidence in court, at least from where I sit. And what now we are talking about the reliefs that the court can offer. Azimio had asked for 24. Azimio had 24 asks. 24 prayers, yes. But I'm looking at, specifically for me, the of interest is number 12 and number 19. Number 19 being that you nullify the election. Number 12, they are talking about, I think, declaring Raila the leader. I think number 12 depends on Section 80 of the Elections Act. Number 19 depends on Article 140 of the Constitution of Kenya. So, of course, asking everything, and you saw judges asking that if you're saying that this election was irreparably bad, how then do you want us again to declare you as a winner? Even if as a court we went through this and found that you, for example, the petitioner, should be declared the winner. But you've already told us this thing is so bad, it should be nullified. So how do we go about that? I think that was just to try and help them prioritize which ask for them is important. But over and above, because this is a presidential election, when it comes to authorities, I think and I know that the Constitution holds the higher rank in the hierarchy of authorities, and therefore Article 140 that only gives the Supreme Court two options, that you either uphold the election or nullify that, and that I don't think that Section 80 of the Elections Act will actually have so much say in this. So over and above, you want my judgment on this? I think that from where I sit and having gone through issue by issue here, the 9 of them, I think that at best we should have 7 judges upholding this election.
Okay.
At worst, we should have at least 5, because the veracity of some of these cases, 5 upholding, 2 dissenting. But I do not think that we are going back to elections.
Okay.
I do not think that we are going to either do a fresh election or a rerun or a runoff. I don't think we will actually go. That is where I am. I am a practicing Christian. I know that miracles happen.
Okay.
In fact, there is a church called Maximum Miracle Center. But I do not think that in this particular instance, there is going to be that miracle of us actually going back to the election or election being nullified. Unless for other reasons, and I'll call them political reasons. The apex court is a court, yes, but we know that it's a political court. This is not written in any law, but in so many places, in other jurisdictions, the Supreme Court, the apex court, sometimes is used as a political court where 40% could be legal and 60% political. Even the situation from where we are, there are a few issues we've spoken to here, that if they were to take us back to elections, which IBC will hold elections? This one where we have got the OPEC for not being trusted by Kenya Kwanza, a major player in this particular election, and the Bombers 3, which cannot be trusted by the other side also. With this, we have got IBC that is fully constituted. But de facto, all of us know that you can't trust these guys going forward. There are issues around corporate governance.
Okay.
There are issues of corporate governance that I think the Supreme Court should not shy away from actually helping and guiding. Because the commission, being an independent body, is slightly structured differently than other parastatals or state-owned entities. So SCAC might not apply to them 100% on how they resolve their problems. So issues of corporate governance exist, but are they at the level where you could actually say the threshold was so bad that they can impeach from 34A? Again, not. Okay. So, whereas I'm a practicing Christian and I believe in miracles, and I also know that there is a church called Maximum Miracle Center, I do not think that there is going to be. I do not expect a miracle today.
I would like to get DG's take, but before that, there's some issue that was raised, of course, from the issue. First of all, was the spoiled votes, and the question was, should the spoiled votes be added to the final tally?
I think that was settled in 2013.
All right. Question number 2, from the audit that was done on the polling stations, there was a mention of polling centers or polling stations that were non-existent, or non-gazetted. Number 3, there was the issues that was raised by the court on an all-powerful chair, who checks and balances the chair. Number 4 is Jose Khamaru, and we've all spoken about this. What was the role? And I said, you're peeping in my bathroom.
Let's go through that again.
So first question is, spoiled vote, should it be added to the final tally? Yeah. And many people argue that if it was, then it would affect the tally as it was, the national tally. Second is about the polling stations. From the audit, there was a mention of, I think, 9 polling stations were non-gazetted. All right, there is the issues of an all-powerful chair. Who checks and balances the chair? If you decide, you cannot say he has all the powers. He can wake up in the morning and say, Moshisho is the next president, and nobody should argue with me. I'm the chair. Another one is the issue of Jose Khamaru. Is it Khamaru? Kenya tumeanza kusema Joseph Kamangu. Very quickly, Goldwater, you can get the DG's take on this.
Number 1, you're talking about spoiled votes. Yes. I think we need to speak of them as rejected votes. Okay. This was settled in the case of Dennis Itumbi, Florence Jematia, and Moses Kuria in 2013. Okay. And the Supreme Court addressed itself on that particular issue and said that rejected votes should not be included in the final tally because they do not belong to anyone. Okay. They don't favor anyone. Votes are about voices. If the vote is then in a place where it counts for nothing, it doesn't belong to anyone, it cannot be therefore be part and parcel of the final tally. So I think that is not a question that we need to go back to. Rejected votes, we can't keep on going back to that particular issue. I think that was already settled in the Dennis Itumbi, Florence Jematia, and Moses Kuria case of 2013, the Supreme Court. Non-existent polling stations, I don't think that was firmly proven that they were truly non-gazetted stations. What was there was a problem of typing. typing issues, but there was no station where people voted and it hadn't been gazetted. None. That again wasn't there. You spoke about the all-powerful chair.
The all-powerful chair and now Joseph Kamango.
we need to actually also differentiate between Chebukati, the returning officer, the presidential returning officer, and Chebukati, the chairperson of IBC. Chebukati was doing a constitutional process, and if you look at the general election guidelines on the presidential elections, it simply talks about the chairman will receive results from the returning officer, the constitutional returning officer. The chairman shall tally, the chairman shall declare, the chairman shall fill Form 34C, the chairman shall... So, again, we cannot subject, and there was an attempt at actually ensuring that other commissioners have a say on the results, or rather on the results tallying process. It was actually sneaked in the BBI. Of course, BBI was lost out. And the mischief in that is that if we are going to allow a few people, we are about 7 people in this particular room now.
Yes.
If I don't like the results that we've tallied, then we can start having push and pull. And we know how much premium is attached to the presidential seat in this country. People will start fighting out there because we don't know what is happening. Okay. So that particular mischief was to be taken care of. That, he spoke about, MOSHISHO spoke about individual officers taking responsibilities for every assignment they have been given. Okay. If you're a member of parliament and the returning officer messes up, he takes responsibility as an individual. If you are an MCA and the returning officer messes you up, he is the one you sue. If there is a case in any particular polling station, the presiding officer there takes responsibility, including the agents who are in there, the clerks and everybody else. They sign the electoral code of conduct. They sign all the guidelines alone. So why then should it be different when it comes to national returning officer? Okay. That we want to subject the people's will to a referendum of about 7 people. We cannot allow that. IBC as a commission does not have even the power of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the only place where they have got the power to nullify or uphold. Okay. The commissioners and the commission should only be a conveyor belt where they look at results as they are and they declare. Do you know that in the Kiai case, even IBC cannot correct Form 34A if it is wrong? Okay. They just add and come up with an error form. Then IBC will show up with that error form in court. That is how tight that process is. So this for me is a fishing expedition. Because this was not an administrative issue before the commission. Can I ask you a question again? What was at the plenary in Bomas that needed to be decided on by commissioners? What exactly in plenary was there that commissioners had to sit aside? Walikuwa wanataka allowance ama walikuwa wanataka nini? After all, we were giving them sitting allowance throughout anyway. Okay. What is there that the commissioners should have sat and decided upon? When you hear people talk about that the 4 of them have refused, sisi watu 14 million tupige kura, alafu some 4 guys sit somewhere and then they dissent, and therefore our election becomes null and void because of some 4 guys. These guys say they do not have their own numbers. They told us at Bomas that everything was done very well until the last bit. How do you reject results that you don't know? In the words of Lenaola, can you reject results that you don't know the outcome? It means these guys already had known the outcome. They were not refusing the process of coming up with Form 34C. They were refusing the results. Okay. But who had invited them to accept results? Like I've said before, not the Constitution, not we the people, not any framework invites the commissioners to vote over our vote.
Okay, Jose Camargo.
So Jose Camargo, that is South Africa. So it's not Jose. Jose.
Jose. Okay.
So Jose Camargo or whatever that guy is.
Camargo, whatever it is.
Again, that was taken care of by Mahat and Gidu in court, competently so, that what we saw in court being portrayed as somebody, Amago, having come in and voted for everybody else, it was an overlay. Because that name, Jose Camargo, appears on all tamper-proof envelopes that had been there. So appear somewhere put the form on the table and it was on top of an envelope and there was an overlay and that was taken as a photo. But then in a court, in a process where people are throwing everything on the wall to stick, there was a lot of excitement that this guy had hacked the system. Yet that name was on literally all the material. Okay. That also goes to speak to the faith we have in lawyers. We, the people in the legal fraternity, can really lead people to hell. So you say everybody bought that and you say that guy voted for, and then it was proven in court. Even though one side really did not want that particular bit to be clarified. So in, what do we call them? There's this certification. It starts with I. I'm forgetting this. Some certification of organizations. ISO certified organizations is that every document should have an originator. Okay. So that at the end of the day, one person
is responsible.
Will be responsible. So in printing this thing, the originator who registered the QR code and everything else, so that when things go wrong,
we look for Joseph.
We will trace and say, Moshisho is the one who raised this particular circular, or he's the one who raised this particular document. So did you or did you not raise this particular document? So it was everywhere, including the time in when it was raised and when it was printed, so that at the end of the day, as in that is how much carefulness we put into this, that hata bahasha, so that was later bahasha, ile ijulikani natoka wapi, hata bahasha, we know who originated it, ilikuwa namba gani, ilitoka na saa ngapi. So that was taken care of. Again, that was just witchcraft that was being presented in court in the name of evidence. So we've taken care of those 9 issues. And that is where, from where I sit, I can call it for an upholding. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'd like to get your views. Arnold has taken some time to carry us through the issues that are raised at the court. What's your view?
Thank you very much. I'll not even try to go through the 9 points that Arnold went through. You all know that I'm coming from the Azimio side, you know. But I think our lawyers have been able to really represent us. And I don't want to digress. I think I'm at the state of where every Kenyan is now, that we wait for the verdict from the Supreme Court lawyers, judges, on the areas that our coalition asked questions and be able to present, evidence against what happened. And I think we're ready for anything, and Kenyans should be ready for anything. If the judges found it fits that they uphold the election of President-elect William Ruto, so be it. If they found out that there were malpractices happen in the tallying and everything around this election and nullified, we are ready to go back to the ballot. So I don't really want to go through these points. They have been able to be executed well in court. Let's wait for the verdict. I think I'm at that level, and Kenyans should be at that position to wait for the verdict without much about what happened in court and what happened even during the election. Yeah, our voices have been heard enough, and we trust in those whom we have given responsibilities to speak and defend on our behalf our point. Yes.
All right. But again, unlike most Kenyans who are watching us this morning, you were a participator in this electoral process, both at the county level where you were running as a deputy governor, and also as a member of Azimio coalition who was gunning for the presidency. What would be then your review of the electoral system as it was? And as a member of Azimio, what do you think are some of the really integral issues that you would, because someone can call you up and say, okay, Moshisho, you're a member of Azimio. You also ran in as a county executive member. Already you've been sworn in already. What would be your review of this, of the electoral process, and also what do you say are the things that you all close to your heart on the issues that came out of the electoral process at the presidential level? I know you feel the problem is that this is a tackle. The tackle we tackle, we tackle people and issues.
There are things that a layman just know about these elections. First, on matters that my brother Arnold have been talking about. On the role of Kamago, in this, every, layman will ask what was his role. He has given his version. The lawyers given their versions, and the judges have had. The, IT experts will give their version, and we're waiting. Even myself, I'm waiting to hear what was Kamago's version. I'll wait to hear whether what Arnold is saying is the right thing that, is what the judges will also say.
So you should have more than Kamago.
Number two, these results were streaming at some point. Yes. And to a point, they stopped. What happened? Okay. A common Kenyan will like to know what happened that
in the TVs or at IBC?
At IBC.
Okay, the bombers.
Yeah. What happened that they were never streaming again? At the tail end of the process, how comes it stopped? Number three, what happened that our IBC was divided? What is this that Chebukati knew? And what is this that the rest of the commissioners knew? What was the bone of contention? We need an answer now from the Supreme Court because, this was presented, and I hope both sides of the IEBC, because IEBC is now in factions, they have also presented their case. Let's wait for the judge's verdict. The issue about the 50+1, we are also waiting to hear, whether the president-elect actually achieved the 50+1 and whether it was fairly or unfairly. So generally, those are the few questions that every Kenyan has, and I think we're just waiting for the Supreme Court to make that ruling. And I think every side, whether you are from Azimio, whether you are coming from Kenya Kwanza, we have to honor and abide by the rule of law. I think from my side, let every side respect whatever decisions that the Supreme Court is going to give in few hours to come.
Okay. Yep. And there's this issue that Arnold has raised, and it was raised at the Supreme Court. And the big question was, okay, we have defined this as a failed election, a corrupt election, an election that didn't have any basis of integrity. That is what the petition has described this election as. And the big question has been, okay, we are saying this is a very terrible election, but we don't mind if you say it is ours. Come on, yetu, this is how it's a good election. And this question has been flipped back again to those who have been elected under the ticket of Azimio who are petitioning the election. And they're saying, if you guys are so sincere about the state of and the process in which the election was conducted, and you are saying it was not the best in its address, why is it that we're having Azimio members of parliament accepting to be sworn in, Azimio governors already sworn in, and all that? At what point do we have a disconnect in elections? At what point do we say, yes, it is good, yes, whereas in, and at what point do we say, apana, hii ni mbaya? Because Jose Kamago was all across, the tallying process was all across, they could have the same IEBC. At what point do we create a line between the elections?
We want the Supreme Court to really tell us, because where Kamago is coming is on the, presidential case. We have not heard about it in the county elections. And if you have heard me well in the beginning of this show, I say we at the county level, from my own side, I see a lot of responsibility from the IEBC officials. Someone was very keen and he never wanted to rush. And I asked, why are these people so keen? And then I'm made to understand that there was a law that everybody, every officer is responsible in his own or her own area of operation in this election. So, but again, we don't know what happened at the presidential level. Question has been raised. We're waiting for answers. We're waiting for answers. Yes. Yeah. So I cannot say the whole process was corrupt.
Okay.
Yeah, I cannot say that. And on this, even on the presidential tally and vote, we are waiting for the Supreme Court to give us an answer on the question that has been raised, on the concerns that our coalition has raised in terms of the presidential vote.
Okay. All right, please have your headphones on. You're getting into Bugala Mwenche. Okay, let's have that running, please. Okay. Hi. Jambo Bungala Mwenche.
Hello. Jambo Bitok, how are you?
Salama sana, good morning.
Morning, this is Maxwell.
Yes, Maxwell.
Now, I have a very serious problem with our young generation right now.
Okay, what's up?
I see Honorable Deputy Governor is a young person.
Yes.
But I think the political parties has made us the people who will never want to think on our own behalf.
Okay.
Even he himself doesn't have any facts. He doesn't have any query. He's just relying on some queries that other people are speaking about.
Okay.
I don't know when will we have the independent mind of Arnold.
Okay.
Arnold is such a person that I think we the young people must emulate in a way. If something has gone wrong, just say it is wrong, put the facts on the table. Let's be this free country that young people can think on their behalf. Okay. This older generation is taking us in circles to the extent that we cannot move in one step. You cannot even allow, you fear even thinking. You fear speaking your mind. Yet you know the truth. This is the thing. No one, even our deputy governor, no one is saying anything about Form 34A, which happens to be the resolve.
Okay.
No one is talking about the original copy, which happens to be the resolve. All these people are just running around and giving some images that it's like winning election in Kenya for Raila Odinga is only the justifiable thing. And the justice for the people of Kenya is for Raila to win. Kwani nani alituroga? Let's accept that, someone has won. Okay, thank you. We've gone to court. We've raised all whatever we have raised. We have heard and we saw with our own eyes. I can even have my own understanding of what I saw. I've gone through the 9 questions. I'm asking myself, which of the 9 questions did Azimio prove otherwise? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not anything, but I can't see any. Number 2, this country has to move on. There are a lot of things. Everything has stopped just because of some individuals who are very selfish. They want things to do on their behalf. Now, you look at Azimio. Why are they disgruntled? Even everyone is saying Kanchori must be fired. I don't know, Jeanette must go. I don't know, all these other people must go. Why are they not telling us? Why is it that they are now blaming some individuals for some things? Is there anything they know that they did that we don't know? Why is it that they are uneasy? So we should not justify these things where someone just wants to be selfish. Someone wants just, it is not me, it is not anyone. You see even the way President is misbehaving, he is not even recalling the parliament. He only has 3 days now. I can't give him the remaining 3 days. I think that is within which the days within the week that the parliament can be recalled. What is it that he's doing? He should have done this long time ago. Why are these leaders so selfish? As a young person, I feel so frustrated. I feel so I feel they have wasted me because they should even just do what is right. Someone has won. Yes, we have gone to court. Uhuru should have done what he's supposed to do. Instead of holding the country at ransom, we are all over the place now. Even I cannot, even today where I live, I have one part of Azimio and one part of Kenya. I could not even take my children to school because this place looks like everyone is suspicious. Anything can happen anytime. So just see my kids wakae kwa nyumba, ningoje results itangazwe, nijue kitakaje. For how long will we do this? So young people like our deputy governor should start styling up and showing the country the way forward. They should stop these old thoughts, old thinking. They should stop behaving like our old politicians. Think like young people who are very progressive. His children and my children are of the same age. What are we teaching them? Tapia mbaya. And this should not continue. I think it's time we just face the facts, tell ourselves the truth, and we move forward. Let's be truthful for once. It will not die if you be truthful. Even Kivula one has said, tulishindwa kwani yes was ama aliona nini nyao wengine waoni.
Okay.
It is so, it's so pathetic when we are in a country where someone just holds the country at ransom. Even our own small kids wamezaliwa juzi wako na miaka 4. They know anything can happen. That deal is going to be kwa sababu unajua huku inakaaje. So it's pathetic because, but this is the country that we have, and I hope we are delivered this time. The Supreme Court will oppose this election, and then we start planning our life. Is that running around doing our things? We need to make money and move on.
Okay.
And that's the life that we need. We don't need these stories of I don't know they have presented the cases. Now we are waiting. It's tiring, and unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, Maxwell. Bungala mwenyechi 779-800-010 779-800-010. Bungala mwenyechi iko wazi, nambari ni 779-800-010 779-800-010. Just for Rakita, congratulations my brother and the very able deputy governor Honorable Moshisho. Asante sana. Okay. Good morning, Bungala mwenyechi. Bungala mwenyechi jambo. Okay. Bungala mwenyechi jambo. Good morning. Bungala mwenyechi.
Hello, Mr.
Yes, good morning to you. How are you?
Hello.
Hey, nakusikia.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Salama sana.
Huyu ni Salilia Latin kutoka Korea.
Oh, Korea. Okay, good morning to you.
I'm good, and I want to appreciate the speakers that we have brought today.
Okay.
It is good that we are discussing the issues across the board, and of course issues affecting our country. But I'm a bit disappointed the same way the previous caller has done and called. In the kind of the trajectory of our politics where we are taking to.
Okay.
I expected that as a young people who want to build our country with a strong institution, with strong things that we want to achieve tomorrow. I'm not expecting one institution, the Supreme Court, it destroy na could distract the independence of the IBC.
Okay.
Where will we be going in the next level?
Okay.
We need to be sober in our mind. We need to be frank in what we discuss. And even in our politics, whichever the way where we align in our political divide, it doesn't mean that we need to hold on into the difference so much, but the real ideologies that we have cannot even be shared across.
Okay.
We need to share the ideologies right. I want to appreciate Arnold by coming up and sharing these things.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that it's only that we need to pull the cloth towards the direction of the one person. But we need to come together so that we can build our nation. We cannot move on now if the Supreme Court gives a different decision of saying we need to go back into our re-elections. For the next 60 days, people are no longer even going to do their businesses because now we need to go back to our campaigns and everything is standing still. Okay. Currently, we have a fluctuation that has affected even our transactions all the way from outside the country because what we are sending towards back to our home is no longer what we used to send before the election. And this is what we want to do. We are not just sending it. We are sending so that we build and develop our country. We feel so much disappointed sometimes from the diaspora when we see the real people and the real politicians discussing some issues that are real, and they should discuss it so that we build our nation. It is not about just discussing so that we discourage other people or we don't care. The issue of we don't care in this country should come into a standstill. And we should move on to our serious business of developing our nation. I expect that the judiciary today gives us a verdict, of course. But by and large, let us remain consistent that we are focused to build our nation.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Otwa Korea. Thank you for joining us this morning from Korea. Is it South Korea or North Korea? Which Korea?
South Korea, North Korea utaimprove wapi because wacha kiasi
Young Kim Jong. Thank you so much for joining us. Salima to Korea. You can see you guys. Thank you so much. I find this interesting because we get to interact from people of all corners. All right. So there's a new notice that's coming in, and we are going to have the Supreme Court ruling at 12 midday. That is known. In the morning, I was saying it's going to be at noon. So I think I've become a small-time prophet, on the side hustling, prophecy. Okay, that's it. I think we're going to close. It's 29 minutes. Actually, 30 minutes past 9 a.m. So I think we're going to close Bunge at that so that we can have some rejoinders as we also try and believe what could happen at your head home. We are from Mheshimiwa. So I'll get back to you, Arnold, for your rejoinders. And also what Mheshimiwa has spoken into, and also what the callers have said on the Bunge.
I think it's okay for us to wait for the next 2 hours and see how things turn out. But while we do so, let's just remember one thing, that this is not the election day. The election was 9th of August. And the Supreme Court, like I have said, is not part and parcel of the election. Politicians have worked so hard to market the Supreme Court as part and parcel of the elections. It is not. I need to repeat that for the umpteenth time so that guys actually get it. The Supreme Court is not part and parcel of the elections. We already did the elections, and what is going to be declared will actually be very basic. Of course, there's the technicality of the 9 issues. Number one, how many issues stand out, for example? If you have got 9 issues and you guys just think that only one of it. So there's going to be a little bit of mathematics. On a lighter note, of course, we as a people know to do everything, including doing very difficult things, except counting. We are only in court because we don't think that we counted right. We agree on so many things. And all of us now know that mathematics permeates the entirety of our lives.
So to get after accountants,
unfortunately, mathematics is the language of the universe. Everything. Everything, even how things move out there in the universe. Nowadays, we don't talk about the universe, we speak about the multiverse. Everything out there is mathematics and physics. Of course, physics is just an enhanced version of mathematics. It's actually an applicable part of mathematics, but mathematics is the universal language.
That's why we had it, because we had mathematics.
So we are here because we've got a problem with math. But as you do whatever you're going to do, let no one call on to you. If anyone is going to come up and do anything stupid outside of what is required of them, that is a crime, and you'll actually, by the way, meet. You see, the same way Chebukati is facing the law alone, the same way returning officers are made. If you go out there and burn somebody's business, throw a stone at somebody, when the law catches up with you, it will catch up with you as an individual. There will be no solidarity from the person, quote unquote, whom you want to deal with. You had your role in this particular process, and that was to cast your vote before the election to campaign for the person you like. You have no business, for example, bringing the nation to a standstill. And this involves everybody. Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, Wajakoya. Those three, William, Raila and Wajakoya are the only people who have not conceded. At least David Maure did concede. I'm looking forward to see Wajakoya's conceding later on. Because sikuona kesi yake na sikuona kura zake ngapi zilipotea, but he has not considered this far. So we also look forward to that. But over and above as a nation, we need to know that the next frontier of what we face as a people is two things: socioeconomic empowerment. Let me just call it one. It is socioeconomic empowerment. The first liberation was for us to break the shackles of colonialism against the white man. The second one was for us to get good governance. We have got the framework in the Constitution 2010. The third and in my final liberation is socioeconomic empowerment as outlined in Article 46. But we can never forget Article 10, good governance, because it is said that the price of liberty, and I want to juxtapose the two, the price of democracy is eternal vigilance. We should never forget that. So, from where we sit, the thinking that liberated us against Muzungu, the thinking that gave us, or rather liberated us against the imperial presidency, cannot be the thinking that will send us to the third and final liberation. For socioeconomic empowerment, we need now to get into the quantitative world. That people need money in their pockets, people need food in their stomach, people need their children in school, people need health. Those are quantifiable things that we pursue. We cannot do these things. We cannot achieve the socio-economic empowerment aspiration as loftily outlined in Article 43 of the Constitution, as loftily put down in Vision 2030, with the same way and thinking that we fought the other two battles. This one is a little bit of a different way of approach. We must work hard. So there's the place of diligence, the determination. We cannot change that particular aspect as we move forward. So from wherever we are, just remember that Kenya is where it is today because of the individual sacrifice of persons, and the government has always caught up with us, not led us. One time too many, the government has caught up, has been running to catch up with us. You realize that today, the private sector, for example, when it comes to forensics, is actually much way ahead of government. So government is catching up with us as a people. So we set the pace. Government only catches up. And because we live in a global world where countries must have national authorities, we are sad that we have got a national authority that is late in the day. But we as a people set pace. So continue setting pace. Continue being the best that you have been. After all, 80% of life is about showing up. Yeah.
All right. Let's keep showing up. All right, Mheshimiwa. Your comment.
Thank you very much. My brother Maxwell, who called, was displayed some displeasure in the young people. And first he was blaming me that I'm not speaking my mind. And he congratulated Arnold because he was talking his mind. And first of all,
how do you know I'm not speaking my mind when you don't have my mind?
First of all,
that's my mind.
First of all, myself and Arnold, we are young men. Yeah. So only that probably maybe I was not talking what he really expected, but we are young men, and I know we have a very good role in our country, and we are trying to play that role as young people. And I want to tell him I'm trying as much as I can to speak my mind. I might not be speaking exactly what my coalition would like to hear, and I might not be speaking what he really wanted me to.
What Maxwell wants to hear.
What he wanted him to hear. But I'm speaking about what I feel is good for our country. And I must lead by example as a very good young man of Kenya to say, if I was not contented with how the election was conducted, the law have allowed me a way to make my voice heard. And that is to the Supreme Court. I'm also saying at this point, my voice has been heard through the lawyers. So even if I shout right now, it might not help because a decision is going to be made at 12. I want to prepare the country. You who is coming from the Azimio side, you who is coming from the Kenya Kwanza side, let's wait for the Supreme Court verdict. When the ruling is out, let's go and do the necessary. If it is to uphold, let's continue and build our country. If it is nullified, let's go to campaigns in a very, very peaceful manner. Finally, is to really thank all Kenyans for maintaining that peace. This country is bigger than any one of us.
Sure.
Yeah. And peace is everything that makes our country better in terms of development, in terms of the many things that we are doing. Our children are going to school. We have our jobs. We don't want anything interfered. We need to respect the outcome of the Supreme Court. So thank you very much. I think I don't have much to add. I think we also ready to wait for the verdict.
For the
Yes.
court to speak.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in. Unless one of you has any tackle of the day, unless there is, then you have anything?
I know that today we get the 5th president. I also do not think that it's too early for us to start speaking about the 6th president. I need to actually tell everybody listening, especially the young people who are listening out there, that William Ruto should be the last of our people who are either baby boomers, the lost generation, or whatever earlier generations that were there. The next frontier of our leadership is purely in the hands of millennials and Generation Zers.
Okay.
For millennials, you already, anyone who is age 42 and below, and between 30 and 42, all those human beings are actually millennials.
Okay.
Well, I think up to 26, 27. Because we have got the first generation of Generation Zers showing up. About this year, we'll actually make 2 million Generation Zers. We'll actually have turned the age of majority now. Okay. I need to say this. That as a generation, as a generational cohort, we must define the Kenya that we want. Whether it's William Ruto, I don't think Raila will actually stand a chance in this particular ruling or anything that happens out of that. I know I am an Azimio person. I've voted for Azimio. I have worked so hard for them. But after going through the 9 issues and how we defended it, I must actually say that this is the weakest case Raila has ever taken to the Supreme Court. I've compared it with the 2013 case. I've compared it with the 2017 case. This is not anything closer to any of those 2 cases. This was a very light case. Okay. I think because, of course, over time, our jurisprudence has deepened, has expanded, and, of course, probably IBC has also gotten better at their game. So I just need to say this. There is a generational cohort. Let me just call it as a generation. We need to put our house in order. The Generation X, which is actually the millennial. Actually, the Generation Y. Because William Ruto is the late version of the early version of Generation X. And say this: we as millennials need to actually now up our game. We need to define the country we want for our children. And the country we're going to live in, the country that then we are being made to receive and lead, is a difficult one. It's a country where kusoma sio shida, ujinga sio shida. All of us, shida ni kazi. Tuko na dini kubwa. There is no generation in this country that has ever had a bigger debt than the current generation. So we must start thinking and having a conversation amongst ourselves as a generation, as early as now. Tusishutukanie 2030 hapo ndio tunaanza kutafuta who amongst us can actually lead us. That is a conversation that we need to be deliberate about. You know, if you look at the Kina Railas of this world and the Kina William Rutos of this world, amongst themselves, they already knew who amongst themselves can actually stand if called upon to take the guard of the nation. Raila has got his own people. You see it's so easy for Raila to work with William, with Karua, for example. William has got his own peers and people he's working with. We millennials must start having, because 10 years is a very small time. I was here the other day when Jubilee took over.
Okay.
And now I am here when Jubilee is actually going home. So we need to start having a generational conspiracy. First of all, we need a generational conspiracy to work amongst ourselves. Define the nation we want going forward. Okay. Define the future that we want for our children. And start walking that talk now. If we don't, I need to repeat this, if we don't, Generation Zers will sit on us. Watatupanga.
Kama hatupangwi lakini tusipojipanga tutapanga. All right, I still want to remind you that you can get your hoodie. We are here. Your tackle hoodie. This is the biggest brand in town, so you can actually wear your brand. The biggest brand in town is here with you, so you can get your hoodie at only 2,500,000. Hey. Okay. 500 Kenyan shillings, 2,500 shillings only. You can get your hoodie. You can wear the biggest brand in town. And we say we are bold, credible, and we are informed. We don't buy lies. We don't buy propaganda. We don't speak for anybody. We speak for ourselves and we speak for every Kenyan. We are bold, credible, and informed. And yes, we're never opaque. We are very transparent. So you can hold us to task. This is a tackle, and you can have your hoodie. You can WhatsApp your order to number 779-800-010 or 779-800-010. Tell us about your sizes and your color, and you can get it delivered to you. Also, t-shirts are coming up. But meanwhile, you can get your hoodie. It's cold in Nairobi, so can you imagine staying warm? It's such a beautiful brand, and it's all quality product get to you all there from the tackle. So get your order, spin your order, so that we can get to supply it to you. Kwanza mheshimiwa inafaa nunue county. Watu county ni wengi.
County ianza kuspend pesa, akitumia pesa ya county size.
Ile ilibaki.
Watu wataleta shida.
Anunue alafu ataclaim. All right, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you. The ruling is coming in at midday, and you can already see the situation is building up. I'm also saying traffic is building up. Traffic is building up towards the CBD. It's getting crazy. I think the roads are being closed in Kenyatta Avenue is building up. Traffic is building up on Kenyatta Avenue. Traffic is building up as well around Nyayo Estate. Traffic is building up as well at the El Celas roundabout heading into the city. So there seems to be a lot of traffic building up. So clearly, I think they've started closing in the roads in the CBD. So the ruling is coming in at midday in the next 2 hours. And you'll find us back again in the evening as we make sense of the ruling that will be submitted by the judges. I still want to remind you that even after the ruling, we still remain Kenyans and we still have one nation. We'll have a president who is Kenyan, and that president will be a human being. Ana mukia. Yeah, we can guarantee you that atakuwa binadamu, ana mukia, ana pembe. It will be one of the two. So we're going to have a new president, and we still have a country to push forward. I want to remind you that if the people who are here, we were here earlier than us, and that's why I like when Arnold says that this country does not belong to us. Actually, it doesn't. And Obama put it very aptly that we've borrowed it from our children and our children's children to make it better for them. So can you imagine if the people who were here before you, if your grandfathers has finished this country, ungekuwa wapi sahi? Ungekuwa Congo Forest, ama ungekuwa msituni huko ukihangaika. But because some people took responsibility of protecting this nation, we are enjoying it today. So you have a responsibility of ensuring that the generation that's going to come after you is not only going to find a country, but it's going to find a nation.
Yes.
Because I think we are a country. We are not a nation.
We are not yet a nation.
We've not achieved the spirit of a nation, that we can say we are homogeneous, we share in the common ideals, and we respect each other as a nation. I think we need to get to a point where we achieve nationhood, and it's going to take each one of us to ensure that we get there, ensure that you can take responsibility of who you are as a citizen, and also take the responsibility of respecting your neighbor, and ensure that you have the responsibility of building a better nation where we can all look at each other, not as a tribe, not your second names, but as a fellow Kenyan that is also allowed to disagree and agree when they can. All right, until later, I wish you a very good time. I just want to remind you that if you still have that idea that you've always thought about, if you have a content idea, I keep telling you that every dream deserves a chance. Every dream deserves a chance. So I want to give you an opportunity to ensure that your dream sees the light of the day. So we're giving you a 1 month trial. If you have a recording, if you have a content idea that you always wanted to push to the market, someone give us a chance. We still want to give you a chance as well. You can call in on the number on the screen, 767-115. Talk to Steve and get to book your appointment so that you can have your content running into the market. We're giving you an opportunity to ensure that your dream sees the light of the day. Every dream deserves a chance. You're on the tackle. Every dream deserves a chance. And thank you so much. These guys have been keeping us trending for all week. For all week. Wiki mzima. Hata Supreme Court has not trended for all week. We've been trending for all week without a judgment, without lawyers, without jurisprudence, without picky ponky.
Haukukuwa kwa affidavit, haukukuwa kwa CCTV.
Hatukuwa kwa CCTV.
Haukukuwa kwa affidavit.
Siko kwa affidavit. Hatukuwa kutini. But we've been trending for 1 week. Courtesy of you guys. I keep telling you that without you guys, the tackle could never be. The tackle belongs to you. And so ensure that you can always come back here for up conversations, honest conversations on the future and destiny of this country. We still remain partisan 100%, and we bring you conversations that shape the destiny of this nation. You can join us every single morning from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. as we converse on different issues that affect the nation. Please remain calm and take care of yourselves until later in the evening as we get to interrogate the merits and demerits of the ruling today. Until then, take care. This is the tackle, and it ends right now. We love you, and bye-bye.